Liverpool are gearing up to completely destroy the Premier League transfer window by trying to bag Isak. However, could Newcastle's owners potentially ruin the party? My friends, I'm here to talk about all the latest Prem recap news based on the big stories developing today. So show some love on my new channel, FTN today, football transfer news today, and I hope you guys enjoy today's reports. We start things with the first big story to drop today, and Man City have agreed a deal to re-sign their former academy star in James Trafford. The deal is set to get completed now for around £27 million. Now don't forget the context that Man City sold Trafford to Burnley for around 14 million. So there's only like a 30 mil net cost in terms of bringing him back. I like when big clubs do moves like this, especially when they know that it's best for the young player to get consistent minutes. And if he performs, because we value him very highly and we don't want to affect his development with inconsistent minutes, we have a great opportunity to buy him back for even less. I think it's working out for Man City, to be fair with you. However, James Trafford is going to be joining Ederson and Ortega. But it does kind of feel like at the moment, either one of these goalkeepers could potentially be on the move. We know that Galatasaray have been advancing to try and sign Ederson, but reports seem to conflict and suggest that Ederson will remain at Man City. Ortega might be tired of being a number two, and opportunities might come for him. But regardless, Man City won't be keeping three top keepers on their books. One of these guys for sure is definitely leaving. Anyway, Trafford today signed a 5-year deal with the option to extend by a further 12 months. And in my opinion, I feel like this is a very smart move. If you're James Trafford, you're thinking very seriously now about your career. And that's because at Man City, you know that if you're patient, if you bide your time, you will take that first team spot eventually from Ederson. Ederson's time is coming. In the meantime, learn from him. Watch him. Get consistent minutes in cup games. You're going back to an environment. It's a soft environment. You've been there before. You know the manager. You know the setup. You know the system. Now you just come back a more complete player. And I have to say, I feel like James Trafford will be one of the top 10 goalkeepers of this new generation. I think this guy is pretty complete. Not only is he like freakishly tall at 6'5", 6'6", he does everything. In the championship last season, he conceded 16 goals in 45 games. I think he kept like 20 clean sheets. And there's not any like weakness to his game. He is stupidly well-rounded. The guy's amazing from penalties. So many crucial saves for Burnley last season. He's a leader. He commands his books. He commands his backline. His distribution is ridiculous, especially across distances. And when it comes to those actions playing outside your box, the kickstart attacks, that is the popular thing that elite clubs need to see now from their goalkeepers. But in terms of that, the shot saving mechanics are on point. He can get down really low to cover his angles against the near post and the far post. There isn't anything that he can't do. And when you're this well-rounded with no weaknesses, it means that you can only just fine-tune what you're good at and get better and better and better. So this is a smart move for someone that, in my opinion, is set to become the new England number one in the not too distant future. Maybe this Man City move could really push him on. But I do think this is very smart business from Man City to bring back someone as well-rounded as James Trafford. So how do you feel about this news and this deal? Comment your opinions below. And for the next story, one of the most important stories before this window closes will involve Luiz Diaz, because as we all know, let's just keep it real, his sale to Bayern could fund one of the historic moves in Premier League history in Isak going to Liverpool. But before we discuss that, let's focus on what is happening with Luiz Diaz. At the moment, we do know that Liverpool have already rejected a first approach from Bayern Munich. And that approach was around 67.5 million euros, around 59 million pounds. Now, Luiz Diaz is the third best option Bayern want, as they failed in their efforts for Florian Wirtz and, of course, Nico Williams. But in case things break down, players that they are looking at as potential alternatives do include Malik Fofana, of Lyon. And another player is Garnacho of Manchester United. I'm sure Man United would be very open to a club making a move for Garnacho. They need that pure profit now to reinvest into signing a striker and improving the team further now for Ruben Amorim. So at the moment, there is talks that Bayern are set to come in again to make another move for Diaz. Everything is still verbal at the moment. Until Bayern Munich get a verbal understanding with Liverpool, they're not going to present the official offer, but Bayern have made things very clear. Diaz has 2 years left on his deal. We refuse to go to the 100 million he originally wanted, and I know Liverpool won't get that, but we refuse to go past 80 mil euros. We don't think for that money, for that price, he is worth that type of money. The max we're looking to go up to is 75 million euros. And from Bayern's perspective, they feel pretty confident and optimistic because they know the importance behind Liverpool securing money now for this deal. They understand that. But there is further interesting context behind why Liverpool are kind of forced to have to ask for a ridiculous amount of money for Luis Diaz. And that simply comes down to the fact that Luis Diaz, for someone that good, is on ridiculously low money. Like, it's actually a bit baffling. I think he's earning around 60k a week at Liverpool. Now, obviously, they signed from Porto years ago, right? But Liverpool have been profiting off having one of the best wingers, in my opinion, in the Premier League. And I know Liverpool fans, fans don't see the perspective outside of their club. So it's very easy to zero in on all the mistakes a certain player makes without thinking about the wider scale in which that player compares to the rest of his contemporaries. And I'm sorry, be grateful that you have a winger that's getting double digits for goals and assists. That's not a common thing at this level. Let's keep it real. So when Liverpool have been profiting off having one of the best dribbling wingers for the last few years under reduced money due to how low his wages are, it now means that to replace him, to find someone on his level or better, will cost you 4 to 5 times Luis Diaz's current wages right now. So this is why they're trying to offset that difference by asking for more money from his sale to try and help them manage their books, because they need to be responsible with their accounting, right? Especially for things like FFP and manners and details like that. So let's watch this space, because there's belief that Bayern can maybe sign for under 80 mil euros. I think that makes things a bit fair. I don't think there's too much leeway Liverpool have surrounding this story. And considering he is the most high-profile player that brings in max amount of money, with Isak on the line, is that something you're going to potentially ruin in hopes of getting another 5-10 mil? Or maybe you can spread out that difference between other players you could sell before the window closes. So what is your thoughts on Luis Diaz, my friends? Share your thoughts and opinions. But right now, let's discuss the big story. And we talk Alexander Isak, because as we all know, Isak today, it has been confirmed he wants the move to Liverpool. I think it's pretty fair. I think it's been written in the stars before any of us had our thoughts and opinions right. Morano's been breaking it for fun recently. Chelsea aren't actively involved in a deal. United obviously aren't because they don't have the money. The Saudi club that showed interest was a pretty interesting story. However, it seems like Isak's demands kind of put them off, as he was hoping to earn around 60 million annually if he was to entertain that move to Al Hilal. And I think that's fair. If you're asking Isak to leave the Premier League in his absolute prime, these guys know they'll be in Saudi for a year, 2 years max, and you'll come back to big things still in Europe. Yeah. So if they want him, it's going to cost you that amount of money, but that won't be happening either. Now, we know Liverpool see him as their dream target. They were ready to try and buy him for around 120 million. Newcastle want 150 million. They may be forced to do something like that. But things might get a little bit more complicated, because it does seem like Isak's future is out of the hands of the manager and even the Newcastle management, because this is going straight to their chairman, in Yasser Al-Ramuyan. And this is going straight to the Saudi Public Investment Fund, because this is serious money. Serious conversations have to be had. And personally, I believe that this explains all the reports we currently see now around Newcastle looking at other offers for other strikers in the window. One player they are looking at is Benjamin Sesko. He would be their dream possible alternative to Alexander Isak. Personally, if you're asking me, I don't see Sesko leaving RB to go to Newcastle. He's leaving RB to go to one of the top 4 clubs in the country and top clubs across Europe. Now, Sesko kind of got himself priced out from a move, which makes a lot of sense. His release clause situation was a bit confusing. Yes, there is a set clause at around 68 million euros, I think, but there was also bonus related performance boosts on top of the release clause. Arsenal were coming close to engineering an 80 million euro deal, which would have been 40 mil up front and 40 mil in additional add-ons over time. But then the wages also became an issue, and the price for Sesko was just too high for clubs who feel like he still needs a little bit more development at the moment. I think if you're Sesko, you wait until you've finally broken 20 goals in the Bundesliga. Once you can showcase that level of consistency, because he's still very much a striker who has hot flashes. He'll score a few goals in a game, go on a consecutive run, and then he might not score in the next few. So if you're Sesko, you wait at RB, break that 20-goal Bundes goal barrier, and then think about the future. I wouldn't be entertaining Newcastle at this point in time. But it is interesting. There are other players that are currently interesting Newcastle's attention. One of those players is Strand Larsen of Wolves. Now, Strand Larsen was low-key one of the most accurate, prolific shooters last season in the Premier League. I think he had by far the highest shot accuracy on goal at around like 71 point something percent, 69%, which is ridiculous. Considering he was playing for a Wolves team that had their difficulties, mainly played on the transition, but coming from Celta Vigo, getting 14 goals in his first Premier season, he seems like a more attainable, realistic option for Newcastle, considering that Wolves are the next club who are looking like they're going downhill right now, as they're selling their stars and Gyokeres and Eight Noris. Another player they're also looking at is Kolo Muani, who I think is another realistic player that they should be turning their attentions to. Kolo Muani has recently had an inquiry from Newcastle mates. They have looked at interesting forwards like himself and also Omega from Strasbourg, but that blue coat connection can make things a bit more difficult to engineer a move like this. So Newcastle's realistic alternatives aren't too bad. Muani, Strand Larsen, and other players as well. But at the moment, if Liverpool want to sign Isak, they're going to have to break records that have never been broken before. I think it really is that clear. Because Isak, you could argue, is one of the top 5 strikers in Europe already right now. I think the guy is sensational. Personally, I think the money they want, 150 mil, is a bit too high. Maybe I'm old school, but I feel like if you're breaking 35 goals minimum a season or 40 minimum, you can start talking about money like that. He's not got there just yet. He hasn't even broken 25 goals plus in the Premier League. I get the limitations being at Newcastle, but I do think it's kind of crazy that his value was so inflated compared to maybe other strikers over the last 15 years that probably had more league goals but came at a fraction of the market value of an Isak right now. Now, I wonder what gets done, because Isak, of course, did confirm to Newcastle that he doesn't want to sign. They rejected the opportunity to offer him a new deal at around 300,000 a week, which I can understand. But I always thought the timing of Isak announcing that he wants to leave Newcastle, I think, was purely strategic, because this is essentially his call-out card to Liverpool to come in and make a move. If he did it earlier, you'd imagine many more clubs would have stepped in to try and engineer something and make a move happen. I know that Chelsea Football Club forever saw Isak as the dream guy that you would break a window for or break a wage structure for. But he came too late, and they've already invested in signing Delap and Joao Pedro now. So realistically, it is Liverpool or bust. No other club can afford him. And I don't think Isak wants any other club. Now, maybe in another video, I'm going to talk about how exactly Liverpool are going to find this balance between Ekitike, Wirtz, Salah, etc., etc. I don't think it's as simple or as easy. It's going to put a lot of pressure on your Gravenberchs, Szoboszlais, McAllisters, or whatever that midfield balance has to be like when you're accommodating attack that good. Is it going to be like a crazy 4-2-2-2, like Wirtz, Salah, Ekitike, Isak? Maybe. But two high-flying wingers in Gyokeres and Frimpong. If you get it right, Slot could be doing legendary things. But getting that balance right requires every single attacking player working hard and pressing like they've never done before in their lives. Slot can do that. He's one of the best coaches in Europe at coaching the press and making his ideas clear and understandable. But it's going to take some serious work. And from a non-Liverpool fan, my perspective is this period, the small period where Newcastle will have to address maybe tactical tweaks to accommodate the potential of having an Isak in the team, could maybe create that little opening where the details behind Liverpool's game won't be as concrete now because they have to adjust for the offensive talent they have on show. You can't be signing Isak and Ekitike to have these guys being your rotation strikers, knowing they could potentially cost you $250 million. I think that's crazy. I don't think the Premier League has that much money where you can treat players like that. But anyway, Isak ain't going to Saudi, ain't going to United, he ain't going anywhere else other than Liverpool. And now it's a race against time. It's up to Liverpool now to raise the funds to engineer the move. And they have to wait to see what Newcastle do. But the fact that Newcastle are already looking at alternatives, I think the writing is literally on the wall, my friends. So share your thoughts and opinions on that story. And we end things with a final report. And let's talk Viktor Gyokeres, who finally is set to become an Arsenal player and has been given permission now by Sporting Lisbon to fly in to kickstart his medical. Arsenal fans, how are you feeling? Is Gyokeres the dream guy that you want? Is this the guy that could potentially take you to finally winning the Premier League? Right now in Madueke, Gyokeres, Mosquera, Zubimendi, alongside the talent you have, you also got guys like Ranieri, Dalman as well coming through the ranks. You've got a squad that's ready for now, but also still ready for the future to keep on competing. Surely the expectations and ambitions are a lot higher now. It must be. Obviously, Arsenal agreed a 63.5 million fee, which is fixed, with 10 million in achievable add-ons, which is forever the most important thing to get the deal over the line, as well as like other goodwill gestures such as Gyokeres' agent kind of wavering his commission from the deal, which probably saved a few million due to the size of the transfer fee. So that's it. Gyokeres now is basically sealed. He is flying into London to complete and finalize his medical. And for someone that bagged 54 goals in 52 games last season, yeah, I know the coefficient in leagues like Portugal isn't as high, but when you're kind of like breaking statistical records for fun, I think it does communicate that you are more than just a good striker. You might be one of the best strikers in Europe. And one thing about Gyokeres, for me, was that he seems to be the player that other football players respect and rate and speak highly of. And when your peers are rating you in that capacity, it does say quite a lot about your game. Now, I'm going to make one mad comparison. There's only one area I'm going to compare in Gyokeres' game to another player I remember back in the day, and that is Aguero. The only similarity I see with Gyokeres and Aguero is the shooting. It's hard, it's low, it's like a laser. Yeah, very focused from any angle. The shots are getting safe if they're not going in the back of the net. The guy really is an elite shooter. The mechanics are on point. Interesting questions though. How will maybe Arsenal adapt to cope with Gyokeres? How will Gyokeres also adapt to Arsenal? You're not going to get as much space to play in. This guy's very like lateral runner, transitional type of player. But don't think that he is like one note and can only play that way. He has other weapons in his game. He can do more than that. But ideally, Arsenal kind of have to create those situations for him to really shine and come through, right? Maybe Arsenal's way of coping next season is to alternate between using a 4-3-3 and a 4-2-3-1, where maybe Kai Havertz is in behind, Gyokeres. It could be interesting. But anyway, my friends, big things are happening in the Premier League. One of the biggest windows we've seen in recent memory. And it seems like it could be ending in spectacular fashion with many massive deals still to come. So that's all the reports today, my friends. I hope you guys enjoyed the video. Hit that like button and subscribe to FTN today. I'll catch you guys later. Cool.